What is up, everybody? Joel Nicholas here for another episode. It is April 5th, 2020. I think I'm going to change it up a little bit and create a new segment called Fireside Chat with Joel Nicholas. Yesterday, I spent a better part of my day editing a slideshow, and I kind of figured, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. So, in this episode, I'm going to just create with you in real time. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'm going to start with Sleeper Mine by Sebastian Kami Ruby. And here we go. Coming at you live with lo-fi hip-hop. Alright. Just to set the stage, last time I talked about landing in Kathmandu, staying overnight in the backpacker district of Tha Mel, where I was going to meet up with my homie Dustin and sync up with our trekking company. It was kind of serendipitous the way that we met, and if you've been down in that district, there's a whole bunch of people. It's pretty dense and pretty wild. And I just recall like somebody crossing my path and he appeared right before my eyes. It was pretty trippy. Anyways, I digress. So once you sync up with your trekking company, if you choose to have a guide, you'll go over the logistics and the plan. And in this case, we took a 11-day trek to Gokyo-ri. You can see up here at 5,483 meters, which is about 18,000 feet. But the journey begins in Kathmandu, where it's the capital of Nepal, and you take either a plane to one of the most dangerous airports in the world, Lukla. In this case, we had been upgraded to a helicopter, and it was one of the crazy experiences in my life. For one, it was my first chopper ride, and I enjoyed it very much. It was very exhilarating to take off from in a vertical takeoff kind of situation. But to give you an idea of the itinerary, once you land in Lukla at 9,000 feet, you begin your trek, and then the first day, basically you go from Kathmandu all the way to Phat Ding, and where you will stay for the first night. The following morning, you take off to Namche and do some acclimate to the altitude at 11,000 feet over a course of 10 miles, which is pretty significant, doing 1,000 feet approximately per mile. And at that point, you will acclimate for a day by going up to the Kumju village and checking out the Everest View Hotel. So for this part of the segment, we will be going from Kathmandu all the way to Namche, and I will go ahead and start the slideshow now. Here is, let me go full screen mode here. Boom. So this is the stupa once again. The spire here, a gilded spire with the Buddhas facing in the cardinal directions. It's just absolutely gorgeous colors. And this is the downtown area of Tha Mel, the backpackers district, where you can buy supplies. And it's pretty busy, a lot of tourists in that area, but it's very interesting. But at this point, I feel like I'm ready to get away from the city and head to the mountains. And we were fortunate enough to catch a heli ride. And here's a helicopter. Under perfect conditions, you are allowed to land in the Lukla airport. It usually has to be between the hours of 9 to 5, perfect weather conditions in terms of the wind. In this case, it was a little bit dicey. We were kind of holding out there for a little while at the airport until the weather got better. But we had been upgraded to a heli just so that we could connect with our guides over at Lukla. Big ups to Echo Adventure Nepal for hooking us up. Here's my homie Dustin in the heli. There you go. Looking at the helicopter on the port side, taking off from Kathmandu. Absolutely fun just to take off if you haven't taken a heli ride yet. So here's the Lukla airport, landing on the pad adjacent to the runway. And this is one of the most dangerous airports in the world. If I'm not mistaken, it's a 12-degree angle built into the side of a mountain and zero room for error. So if you mess up, you're going straight into the side of a mountain, just absolutely bananas. At this point, you sign in. So along these ancient routes, they've got these built-up villages where you can hang out. And in Lukla, this is where we had our first briefing on the itinerary and how things would go. And once you get into the groove of things, you have a good cadence and a routine, and check your blood and oxygen levels, have a meal, and then continue on. What makes these hiking trips amazing is that you can go on week on end and just keep on going until you feel like you need a rest, and then you'll come across one of these villages and you can hang out for the night, where you can pay for very, very cheap accommodations, but where they make their money is on the food. So as you go up in higher elevation, this is a tip where the food will get more expensive as you go higher, so keep that in mind. Some of the sights along the way, some interesting wardrobes, beautiful colors. These are some of the shops that you might see along the way. And yaks. Plenty of yaks. You gotta make sure that you don't want to get in between a yak and on the side of this cliff. Always kind of want to be on the inside, just for your own safety. But yeah, I can just hear the bells right now. And one thing that I would have to mention is notice the trail itself. I would have to say it's probably one of the most craggy trails that I've ever been on. It almost felt like you're gonna sprain your ankle every step of the way. So you want to get boots that are pretty robust and have great ankle support. And here in the Pacific Northwest, I don't think you have to worry about that too much, since a lot of the trails are groomed. But that's one thing to note when you're hiking out there in the Himalayas. If you're afraid of heights, you might have to get over it real quick, because the only way to get over these valleys sometimes is through these suspended bridges. And one thing to note is that under heavy wind, it sways. It's kind of dicey, it seems. And underneath this pack is a porter, and these guys have to be one of the most strongest people that I know in terms of strength to weight ratio. These guys are small in stature, but man, are they tough, super tough. Here's a picture of a river. You can see it's kind of glacial blue in color. I suspect it's super, super cold. So happy I was able to find these pictures. Yes, as you can see, over another suspension bridge, it's a river, and it's got this milky blue, emerald green kind of color. It's pretty spectacular. So here's one of the lodges that you see along the way. This one happens to be one of the nicer ones. If I recall correctly, it was a company from Germany or Europe or something like that. It looks like they're having some sort of briefing here somewhere, and maybe taking off here shortly. Sometimes I wish I had brought a camera with a bigger sensor. You kind of lose a little bit on the highlights on your cell phone, but this kind of gives you a little bit of perspective. It's difficult to convey through camera, but you can see the small buildings over here and just how grand these peaks are. It's absolutely amazing. It is mind-blowing. Here's another peak at a suspension bridge. So it's very difficult to traverse this terrain. So these things cut a lot of time off your trek by going over there. But I would have to say it is kind of dicey. Here's my homie Dustin. Totally professional looking with cameras 2 at a time, baby. Yeah, so this is Namche Bazaar, and it is approximately 3,500 meters, and this is the gateway to the Himalayas where all the adventures begin for the popular routes. The Everest Base Camp goes out of here, Gokyo-ri. It's pretty interesting because this is one of the last places with commerce. I think this is how it sustains itself. There's actually a North Face retail store here, and where you can resupply and take hot showers and everything. But this is one of the last stops before you go into the wilderness, into the wild. But in this particular spot is a place where you can wash your clothes. Off to the left there's a stupa. There's from a different angle, looking at the other direction. Here's Namche. It's just amazing how you can build these up in a mountain, just in the middle of nowhere. I just love to go back here once again. But here is it kind of clouded in with the perspective from the hilltop looking below. Found a little helipad up there, probably for emergencies. So this is the following morning, and we stayed overnight, and the following day we would take a hike up and then go back down and sleep low and then move on. But I believe at this point we will head to the Everest View Hotel in the Kumjong village. But one thing to note is, like, I've never experienced before, is the angle of the light. So you're so far deep into these valleys surrounded by these magnificent peaks, and I've never seen light come down at that angle. So the sun is there, but it's blotted out by the mountains surrounding you, and it's just an odd experience to see the light come down at a very harsh angle like that. Hi, Willow. So here, burning some natural incense, if you will, in the area, first thing in the morning. Hey, Willow. So Tenzing Norgay is a very famous Sherpa that helped with the first ascent for Mount Everest, and this is a glimpse of Mount Everest, and based on your perspective, it's kind of deceiving, because right here is Mount Everest, but it doesn't appear to be the largest peak, only because there's so many other large peaks around it. It is being blocked at the moment, but it's creating its own weather up here, as you can see. Hi, Willow. Here's a closer peek at it, and over here is Mount Everest. You can see the clouds creating its own atmosphere, if you will. This morning, going up to that memorial area for Tenzing Norgay, we were the first up there, and it was just amazing to see first light kick. This is kind of what I was talking about. See the angle in which the light comes over the peaks? It's like what is that, a 45-degree angle? Yeah, here's a shot of a yak up in the mountains, and I just remember looking at this area and thinking, man, is this real? Is this a green screen or what? Because in the foreground it looks like totally sharp, and in the background it was almost like a backdrop to some fantasy land or whatever. It kind of blows your mind. In photo it kind of looks off in the distance, but it like I said before, it's hard to convey just how large everything is. I believe that's Amu Dablam. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this section here is interesting because somebody has been maintaining this area for, I don't know, what is it, 10-20 years or whatever, but it was probably one of the most smoothest areas of the trail, and all that he asks for is some donations for maintenance of the trail right there. That's really cool. And this kind of gives you an idea of scale. That helicopter right here is just flying, and I'm kind of surprised that it even could make it up there, which is amazing. Here's a helicopter. So 3,880 meters. The idea here is to go and acclimate, go up high and then sleep low. At this Hotel Everest view is just an extraordinary experience to have lunch up there. As you can see, there's Mount Everest right here. Hey, Willow. Once again, this is Kumjong village, and a little boy carrying something on his back, supported by his head. And this is the traditional way to carry things. It seems kind of unusual, but it seems like it supports the weight well. Here is some yak dung being dried out, and it's being used as fuel to keep warm. You can put those in your the fireplace and use to heat up the place. Here's another yak. Not sure. I remember first time approaching, I was like, whoa, wonder if they're aggressive or not. But we made it by just fine. Yep, here's Kumjong village, and back down. Now here's my homie once again, Dustin. And what's interesting is this contraption here is actually used to haul things. So people would actually use this, put it on your back, and I don't even know how it's even possible, but you can see, I don't know, that's like a 4x4 and a 2x4 or something. But they're carrying these things up and down the mountain, and I guess that's the only way to do it. It's either on your back or the yak's back. So this is on the way back down to Namche, where we will stay overnight and head off to the Gokyo-ri Trail. So that's me at this point, and I think we'll pick it up from here next time. So just to recap, let's see. We went from Kathmandu to Lukla to Phak Ding, all the way to Namche Bazaar, where we spent a night for acclimating to the altitude, and where we will continue on to Mocherama and Gokyo-ri. So until next time, if you made it this far, thank you so much for joining me. It's Joel and Willow, Fireside Chat. Check you on the next one. Talk to you later. Bye.